Alright, so let's get started. We should be able to do this in one video because it's not too much. So let's add a title of random image feed, and then we'll add the same for this H1 here. And all we really need in the HTML is a container to put our images in. So that's going to be it for the HTML. Now, before we do any styling, I just want to be able to get the images and put them in the DOM here. So we're not actually using an API, like we're not making a fetch request to an API that gives us image URLs. We're going to use a random URL from Unsplash. In fact, I'll just show you. So make it a little bit easier to understand. If I put in this URL here, source.unsplash.com/random, it's going to give me a random image. Now, if I reload, it's going to be the same image. So what we want to do in our script is create a bunch of image tags with this, but we also need a size. So like 300 times 300 will give me a specific image. If I do 301 times whatever 302, that's going to give me a different image. So we want to use those image sizes as well, and those should be random. So first thing we'll do is bring in our container, and as I'm going here, if it's becoming clear what I'm going to do, I would suggest pausing the video and trying it yourself. And I know I've said that over and over in this course. I'll probably say it a million more times, but I definitely recommend doing that. So let's use query selector here, and we have a class of container. Now the Unsplash URL that we're going to use, I'm going to put that into a variable called Unsplash URL, which is HTTPS and then source.unsplash.com/random/. So that's the root URL. We do want to have a size, but we're going to generate that randomly. I'm also going to put the number of rows that we want. So I want to get 10 rows of images with 3 images in each row. So we'll have a for loop here, and let's say let I equals 0, and we want to say as long as I is less than whatever the rows is, but we want to multiply that by 3 because we're going to have 3 images per row. And then we want to increment I, and let's create an image tag. So we can use create element. I'm sorry, it should be document dot create element, and in here let's create an image tag. And then for the source, so image dot source, we're going to set that to some backticks with the Unsplash URL, but we also need a random size. So down here we're going to have a function, we're going to have 2 functions. One is going to be to get a random, so get random number, and we want a random number between like 300 and 310. So let's return from this function. I want to round it down, so math.floor, and here we want to take math.random, which gives us a random decimal, and we want to multiply that by 10 to give us, a random number between 1 and 10, but we just want to add 300 to that. Okay, so if I go up here and I console log get random number, and we look in our console, we get 306. If I reload, 307, 303, 306. So I want to now have a function to get a random size, and a random size being 301 times 306 or something like that. So let's return here. In backticks we're going to do get random number. Outside of the curly brace we'll do a times, an x, and then another get random number. So if we go up here and we console.log get random size, we get 309 by 307, 302 by 307. So there's a lot of different combinations. I mean, you might get a repeat image, but actually no, you won't, because when you use the sizes it's always random, I believe. So now that we can get a random size, let's go up here, and right after this Unsplash URL we're going to put in get a random size. Make sure you put your parentheses. and then we just want to put that into the container. So we'll grab the container and we'll append child, because we're putting this inside the container, all the images, and it's going to give us, you know, 10 rows of 3. So if I save that, you'll see that it's going to put all those images in the DOM. Now we want to style these. We want to create our rows and stuff. So in our style sheet, let's go ahead and for the body here, we're going to keep display flex direction column, align everything to the center. Let's get rid of overflow hidden so that we have scroll bars. And instead of height 100 viewports, let's do a min height of 100 viewports. So now we can see our title. All right, and then for the title, I'm just going to style that real quick. Just add a margin here of, let's do 10 pixels 0 0, and let's do text align center. I mean, technically we don't need that, but we'll just add it. And then for the container, I want to display flex. Remember, all of the images are in the container, so if I turn the container into a flex box, it turns them into a row. And I want to just make sure I align items and justify content to center. And then let's have them wrap onto the next line. So we'll do flex wrap, and we want 3 to be the max in the row. So what we'll do is set a max width onto the container. So max width will do 1000 pixels, because each one is going to be 300 pixels, so it shouldn't go past that. All right, and we're going to change the size. See how they're slightly different because of the sizes? They're all in the 300 to 310 range, but they're slightly different, so we will add a size onto the images. So that's it for the container. Now let's do the image. So we'll do container image, and let's just do an object fit cover. We want to see the whole image, and then we'll put some margin in between that, and let's set the height to 300 pixels, also the width to 300 pixels. So now they're all going to be the same size. And let's do a max width of 100% so they don't go out of the container. And that should do it. So if I reload, we should get a whole bunch of different random images. And I mean, it's not going to be the most performant because we're just, you know, we're inserting all these image tags, and some of them will repeat if they have the same size apparently. But yeah, we should have 10 rows total. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you wanted to, you could change this to, let's say, 5 rows and save. And now you should only get 5 rows of images. And you could even put a select box here, add an event, a change event to it. When you select, you know, 5 or 10 or 20, you could change the rows, and you could do something like that to add on to it. But that's all we're going to do. It is responsive, so we're using flex wrap, so it'll knock on to the next line. So on small screens, it's just going to be, I mean, the rows, I guess, doesn't, you know, we don't have 10 rows because, or 5 rows in this case, because it's only, everything is stacked, but at full screen, it's going to be whatever number of rows you put here. All right, so I know this is a really simple project, but it just kind of gives you an idea of how you can put things into the DOM. We have random images, random image sizes, and putting them into the source attribute of the images, and then putting them into the container. All right, that's it. Let's move on to the next project.